Hi, I'm Lynn Giacomini Stray, founder with my other sisters, Diana and Jill, of Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company and Robert Giacomini Dairy. And you're listening to Ingredient Insiders.
This is Ingredient Insiders. I'm John Magazzino.
And I'm Andrea Parkins.
On each episode of Ingredient Insiders, we'll be talking with chefs, food makers, and food writers about their favorite
cheesemakers.
And cheesemakers too, yeah.
And we're going to be talking to a cheesemaker today to learn the history of the company, how it's made, and how chefs are using it in their kitchens.
Someone I adore greatly, Lynn Giacomini
One of my faves.
Point Reyes. And this is a family business, and we're talking about family today. We're going to talk about cheese, but this is really about a family in California.
Yeah, I mean, her dad started this farm, and now her and her three sisters are running Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. They make some of the best blue cheeses and Tome-style cheeses. So I can't wait to talk to Lynn and really kind of learn the nuts and bolts of how they started Point Reyes.
Yeah, the loveliest people, the loveliest family making just wonderful cheeses. Another part about this visit that's really exciting is our hosts have been the California Milk Advisory Board, and they've been so great. They've taken us all over Northern California and shown us some of the best cheesemakers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Lynn is doing here with farming is so important to the Northern California culture. I mean, you're talking about, 100 years ago, there were hundreds of farmers up here producing dairy, and now we're under 20 family farms producing dairy in Northern California. So it's really special that we're here with the California Milk Advisory Board, and we know that Lynn at Point Reyes is, part of their network. So it's exciting to kind of bring it all together.
This is going to be just another fantastic episode talking all about cheese, Andrea.
I hope we get to eat cheese, John.
Of course, of course.
Lynn Giacomini, Point Reyes.
This episode is in partnership with the Chef's Warehouse and produced by Gotham Production Studios in New York City.
How lucky are we, Andrea? How lucky? I mean, another day, another amazing, stunningly beautiful place to be.
Mm-hmm. These are the moments, John, where I feel incredibly lucky to do what I do.
It's like a Hallmark moment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I get like a little emotional. As we're driving in, we're looking at this, beautiful Tamales Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely stunning.
We are at the Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company in Point Reyes. Are we in Point Reyes, Lynn?
Yes, we are.
So we are here today with Lynn Giacomini Stray. She is the co-CEO
and
of
founder.
This extraordinary business that produces some of the best cheese in all the world.
With
and
her
some
two
of my
sisters.
favorites. With her sisters. And thank you for having us today. It's so fun to be here.
I'm so excited. You know this. I'm like one of your biggest fans. So to actually be on this and know you guys for so long, I'm thrilled to be here.
So are we. So exciting. So today we're going to talk about a lot of cheese and we're going to talk about cows. But, as we were driving in here, we were talking about like what should be the theme ingredient, because every episode of Ingredient Insiders talks about a specific ingredient. And the thing that popped into our heads was this is like the most family oriented business of, it's yourself, three sisters involved.
Yeah, so Karen, Diana, myself, and Jill. So there's four of us.
Four sisters. Tell us the history.
Yeah, give us a little background.
Okay. We got to back up a little bit
Yeah.
here. My great-grandfather actually immigrated from Italy, and he landed, this was in the early 1900s, and he landed in Petaluma, and he
Wow.
had a poultry farm.
Amazing.
So he was, started agriculture here in California. And then my grandfather, he actually started in the dairy business in Point Reyes in the mid 40s. So he met my grandma there. They moved here and they started a dairy. And they had 4 children, my dad being the oldest. And they sold the fluid milk for the first 40 years. And then eventually, they actually sold that land to the Point Reyes National Seashore right before his passing in 2002.
Do you ever think of how intrepid your great-grandfather was to leave Italy, not just come to the U.S., but travel all the way across the country I can't imagine it's very rural here today in 2024, and to have been in this area in the early 1900s, it must have been literally like the Wild West. I mean, not the Wild West, but just completely.
They were in search of gold. That was
is
kind
that
of the
why you
gold
came?
rush.
Oh.
Is that why they came?
That's right. Everybody came to California. It was searching for gold.
Did anybody
Yes.
find gold?
Did they find? I mean,
We found gold in cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
Took a
Great
couple
point.
generations, but
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So it's really your dad and your grandfather who kind of got the dairy side of the business going.
yes. So we always like to say my sisters and I are third generational dairy family out here in West Marin.
but when did it shift from liquid dairy to cheese?
So where you're sitting today is actually the second dairy. So the first one was called the Home Ranch that my grandfather started in the mid 40s. And then in 1959, they purchased this one. And my parents ran this dairy and raised me and my sisters here on the farm. And they did the same thing as my grandfather and sold the fluid milk. And I think it really drove my dad crazy because he'd see the milk truck come every day and take the milk away. And he didn't have a product that he could share with his friends when he would go to dinners and parties and such. So it wasn't until the late 90s that we really sat down as a family and talked about what is the future of this property, our legacy in agriculture. My father was 60 at the time, and he was thinking, I've been doing this, obviously his whole life. And dairying was more difficult during conventional dairying in the late 90s. The price of milk was very low. All of our inputs were really expensive. And so it was a time of really deciding, are we going to continue or should I sell? And of course, my sisters and I said, no, we don't want to sell the dairy. We want to keep this here. We love coming home to the farm. But we had all started our families and careers and lived elsewhere.
So you weren't even in the cheese or dairy
No.
business?
Oh, no. My sisters and I knew nothing about
All
cheese
separate careers
making.
outside
All
of-
separate. So it was kind of fun to say, yeah, we'll come back, and this is a great opportunity to see what we can do with our milk.
So you never thought as a teenager or young adult, I want to do this?
No. All we could think about was we wanted to do something completely opposite. We wanted to live in a big city. We wanted to get away from the farm. We wanted to have neighbors. My mom was very strong in education and wanted us to go away, figure out what we wanted. I mean, college was not even a question. It was like, you're going, which school are you
Have
going
that experience.
to? Yes. And so we did that. And once again, we were just kind of building our own careers, mostly in sales, marketing, finance, but we all love food, and we'd love to get together as a family and cook for every holiday. It was always important to sit down at the table together. So we really grew up that way. And also just seeing our parents with their work ethic and what they built. And my father was and still is a very successful dairyman in managing his dairy. But it became a time where it was like, what are we really going to do? So at that time, two women moved into Point Reyes. Have I told you this story before?
I don't know. No.
Peg and Sue
Yeah.
from Cowgirl Creamery.
Yeah.
And they had just started purchasing milk from a dairy up the road and started making Cowgirl cheeses. And so they really encouraged other dairies to diversify, have a value-added product. And honestly, cheese saved our farm. Because we came back to the farm, started making cheese, and it was in about 5 years after we started making it, the cheese started paying for the dairy. And
I
so
love that they
it kind
didn't
of evolved.
see you as like rivalries or that they felt competitive. They were like,
It was really about preserving agriculture
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
here. And I always say, first and foremost, we are stewards of the land. We're a dairy family, because everything we do is about making sure we have healthy soil, healthy grass, healthy animals, and with all that we have great quality milk. That the cheese is the benefit to what we do.
Do you, what's interesting? I'm picking up on this women in cheese. And was that something that they were encouraging of at all? The pagan.
that's a great question, because I feel like
Right?
all of the great
Cheesemakers are women.
especially California. Are there
I'm trying to think of
any
a
men cheesemakers?
a male
It's
cheesemaker.
all women in the cheese
No,
world.
they're all gone, John.
Yeah.
Women roll in cheese. No, it is. It is interesting,
Right?
Yeah, and I think that it's always been kind of, historically, men went out and hunted and gathered, and women, were the providers at home and would make the products and feed everybody. And everybody has their own story. But of course, you were just with Cypress Grove and Mary
Right.
Keene and Laura Schnell and Cindy Callahan at Bellwether and Peggy and Sue and Jennifer Bice. I mean, we have so many role models around here. And we're all small, I think what Peggy and Sue really did was, first of all, we need to save agriculture out here. And we need to thrive. This is just such a rich ag area. And it was much more of, the tide rises all boats. And we need to make a statement that we can make great cheeses. And we've got great quality milk in Northern California. So it was very much a collaborative as far as just, everybody pushing each other to do better.
And did they teach one of you or one of your sisters how to make cheese? Like, what was the turning point from dairy to actually, like, we can do this?
Well, for the first couple years when we were putting together the cheese plant, it was very much, we don't know what the heck we're doing. So we weren't involved in the dairy business with our father. I went to Cal Poly to learn how to make cheese at their short course down there.
Wow, okay.
It was really hands-on. But as soon as we remodeled a barn into our creamery, we quickly knew that we needed to hire a cheesemaker that we could learn from. So
Did you start with one cheese?
Yes.
Okay.
One cheese, blue cheese, original blue, which is our flagship. Most people know as for Point Reyes Blue, but we're so much more now, as you can see on our cheese board. But at the time, we looked around and we called people across the country, literally. We'd call chefs, we'd call retailers and say, what aren't you getting domestically? And this was in 1999, before we actually started making cheese. And we love blue cheese, and we were always thinking that's what we wanted to make, but we had no idea about how to make it. We weren't versed in food science at all. And so when we called around, everybody resoundingly said, blue cheese. We don't have enough domestic high-end table blue cheese in the United States.
And you guys just happen to love blue cheese.
We were thinking that anyway. So
Yeah.
it really just validated.
Why? Why blue?
Because we love blue, and we couldn't find it. Nobody was making it in the state of California. So there is a company in the Midwest that makes blue cheese. And no, in all seriousness, Maytag was pretty much it at the time.
Yeah.
And they were written by a lot of food writers and travel writers, and they were really the premium. So there was an opportunity, a niche in the market, and nobody was doing it in California.
So smart.
And is the Point Reyes Blue, because it is the signature cheese of Point Reyes cheese, is it modeled after a Roquefort or Stilton, or is like how did you come up with the style?
So we kind of looked at like a Bleu de Verne. We wanted something that had a lot of creamy texture and was super versatile. We wanted also to have a cheese that was so versatile that people knew what to do with it.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges that American cheesemakers have is we make a cheese and we call it, the John and Andrea cheese. People are like, well, what is that?
Right.
So starting out with blue cheese and all of its versatility and applications was a great entry for us. And we, like I said, we loved all different styles of blue. And ultimately, it's about that milk flavor that comes from this terroir that gives it its uniqueness.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Where did each of the sisters kind of fall into the business? You're the co-CEO. Are you all co-CEOs?
We are. We're super unique. We're the three owners, co-CEOs, but then we each kind of have our areas of expertise.
Yep.
From our earlier careers on to now almost 25 years here.
Amazing.
What we've experienced. So my sister Diana, who you met earlier, she's our CFO. She
Got it.
came from a lending background.
Makes sense.
Jill's our CMO, and she came from a marketing background. And I was in sales and just had a desire to learn more about operations. So I do both operations and sales as a COO.
That's pretty awesome. It's
Yeah.
the perfect triangle of everybody's got their specialty.
Yep,
Yeah.
leaning into what
Do
they're
you
good
guys,
at.
has anybody ever threatened to leave? Do you guys fight? Like, how does this go? Because I can imagine it's not easy working with family.
Or does it make it easier?
Or does it make it easier?
Yeah.
Good point. I should be so negative.
Be so open.
Yeah.
I have a sister who I'm so close to, and we've talked about like various businesses. So I can imagine that it's probably really fun to experience this with your sisters.
It is. I mean, certainly there are challenges. There's a lot of good things, and then there's okay, this is a little bit more difficult. Family business is a completely different business than, any other business.
Because you have to see them at Christmas.
We have to, and yes, we're completely dysfunctional because we also vacation together. We're leaving tomorrow for a vacation. But at the end of the day, we all have the same kind of North Star, the vision for the company. We've really built this company, and really going back to my parents and just how they operated their business and their life, I should say, based on relationships and quality. And so it's always been about, we want to know our end customers. We want to have that high touch point. We want to get feedback. We want to make great cheese. We don't want to take shortcuts. So at the end of the day, it's, we also want to have fun. And a lot of our employees are family themselves. We'll have a husband and wife, or now we're getting on to the next generation of kids that have grown up that are working for us. So it's really exciting. I mean, it's truly a family business.
How many employees do you have?
A little over 100. We have two creameries, one here obviously on the farm, and then one in Petaluma, Sonoma County.
All of you and your sisters, do you all have children?
We do, yes.
And I mean, obviously, as a parent, I'm sure you want your kids to be happy and do what they want. But deep down, do you hope that one of them gets the bug?
That's a good question.
And
I like
wants
that.
to take over?
What's the next generation
What does that
of
look
Point
like?
Reyes?
So I'll just take you back a little bit. When we came back to the family farm, which we never dreamed that we would until the situation kind of happened with, the dairy industry and what my parents, wanted to do next. I was 34. Jill, my younger sister, was 30 at the time. So we always say never say never.
Sure.
And what a great opportunity to create something brand new and to be so fortunate to have, our family's business being able to have that raw ingredient that we could use. So my mom used to always say, don't feel like you have to come back to the dairy. You don't have to do that. Go do your own thing. She actually kind of pushed us away. And so we've taken that tactic with our children, but they're still away. So no, they're all just coming out of college. So they're just starting their careers. They're all still young. But I think they've seen us grow as a company, as part of this community, as a brand throughout the United States and abroad, that I think it's starting to be intriguing for some. So we will wait and see next chapter.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
They all grew up working in on holidays or when they came home from college, whether it was at a farmer's market or in doing packaging. They kind of got some of the, I'll say dirtier jobs, like cleaning cheese, packing cheese, not the glamorous ones. So yeah, it would be really exciting for them to come in and really start learning the business. But
I bet they're going to come into
I have
the
a
business.
feeling at least
I would
one.
love it.
Yeah.
What a cool thing
Yeah.
to be able to come into your family business that's got this amazing assortment of cheeses. It's all over the United States.
Yeah.
That would be a great thing to move into.
Well, I'm up for adoption. So if you want to adopt me, I'll take over the business.
you could be a sister for sure.
Perfect.
Another thing I know that is so important here is sustainability and making, this amazing place on earth remain that way. So talk to us a little bit about Point Reyes' efforts as far as the stewardship of the land goes.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned earlier that really foundationally we are dairymen and stewards of the land, and it's really the foundation, and taking care of that and making it last through the next generation is our primary focus. In 2006, we sold our development rights to our local land trust. It's an agricultural land trust. It was established in 1980. It's called the Marin Agricultural Land Trust. And the idea is that you strip away the development rights out of your easement, and it's in perpetuity. No matter who owns this land, they will never be able to develop on it. it's a financial tool for a lot of farmers, whether it's estate taxes they need to pay or they're expanding or just family members want to divest. But it really is about giving us peace of mind that no matter what, this property will always stay in viable ag.
That's so awesome because this area is so beautiful. And to think of golf courses or housing developments and stuff, it would be really sad.
We're only 34 miles from San Francisco.
Unbelievable.
So it really is a special place. And then, of course, the other things we do is just all of our best practices. We have renewable energy through our methane digester.
Right.
That's running our biogas generator. We have water reclamation programs. We have a carbon farm plan. So all these things that we're doing to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions is, really important. And we're always looking on the horizon of what technology or what is next that we can really make sure that we control those costs.
Nothing goes to waste here.
Nothing goes to waste. We recycle. Our whey is fed back to our cows from the cheese making plant. We reuse all of our wastewater, the solids we're using as bedding for our cows, and then we're applying it as natural fertilizer onto the fields. So, yeah, everything
is fully sustainable.
Fully sustainable.
Great story.
Yeah, our dairy team deserves a lot of kudos for that. They work really hard. There's only 7 of them, and we milk about 460 cows. And it's a lot of work, but it's what they've always done.
Amazing.
Wow.
This season of Ingredient Insiders is brought to you by Bizzini Nuts, a name synonymous with exceptional quality and taste in the world of gourmet nuts and dried fruits. Whether you're crafting a Michelin star-worthy dish or just whipping up something delicious in your home kitchen, Bizzini's premium selection is designed to inspire your culinary creativity. Elevate your dishes with the rich texture and flavors that only Bizzini nuts can offer. From toasted almonds, perfect for garnishing, to pistachios that add a crunch to your salads, Bizzini has everything you need to enhance your recipes. Don't miss this chance to impress your palate and your guests with Bizzini nuts, the chef's choice for quality and flavor.
Let's talk about these amazing cheeses because they are world class in every sense of the word. What was the first, how did you start selling them? Because that's always interesting. You started with the Point Reyes Blue. Did you go door to door to restaurants? Did you go to retail stores? How did all the business come about?
Locally, we had a lot of what we'll call, wholesale house accounts that we would sell to directly. But back to Peggy and Sue from Cowgirl Creamery, they had a small distribution arm called Smalls Bay Foods. And so they purchased our cheese. And I remember that first order was 16 wheels, original blue. And it was
proud.
Oh my God, this is so great. We were aging the cheese for 6 months at that time. And we were like, it's not quite 6 months. I think it's too young, but we have an order. We have to get it out the door. And it was around the holidays. So everybody really embraced it. But so we actually called around to a lot of specialty distributors. We knew right away that we didn't want to sell direct. We needed partners and people who could really get the cheese in front of chefs.
I was going to say, were
retailers.
chefs your customer in your mind, or was it retail?
It's interesting. We really make our cheeses for chefs because of the versatility, the cooking application, the pairing application. So we always keep chefs in mind when we created all of our cheeses, actually.
And this is the 1990s, late 1990s?
2000 is when we first started making cheese.
And that, to me, also kind of coincides with really when this region or Napa, Sonoma restaurants started to explode. Or had that already taken off?
It was right around the time Food Network was exploding.
Yep. Great time.
And so chefs were putting the names of farmers on menus.
Right.
And people ask me that all the time is, do you pay for that?
Right.
And we don't. And it's about really, working with, building relationships so people knew the people behind the product. And that's another thing we've always, getting back to relationships, we always want to know the end customer and make them feel like they're a part of our family as well.
So who were some of the early adopters of it? Was it a Thomas Keller? Was it Alice Waters? Are there names from that era that you remember thank goodness we're on such and such menu?
Or I hope one day we get fill in the blank.
Yeah. Well, as you guys know, the Bay Area has just like iconic restaurants and chefs that have really put, especially farm to table, on the map. Everything from, as you said, Thomas Keller to Alice Waters. But it wasn't just them. And we've always kind of felt that, you know what, we make artisan cheese or specialty cheese, but we don't want to make it for special occasions. Yes, we want the best chefs out there being super creative and finding new ways to use our cheese, but we also want, you know, our restaurant here in Point Reyes to put it on a burger in their salad every night. So we really have an array of customers that utilize our cheese. And we're really fortunate as we've grown to garner, you know, a lot of different types of chefs and different types of food and category. I mean, we've got our newest cheese, Tomarashi. And, you know, we've got Japanese chefs that are using that because it's got the togarashi spice in it. So we're catering to a lot of different people that what ultimately we want to do is get people to start eating and cooking with better cheeses.
So they're accessible cheese. It's not just straight, this has to go on your cheese course. This is for the cheese board.
Yep.
These are cheeses that you can work into
They're
recipes.
approachable.
They're approachable and can be cooked with and used in a variety of ways. And I think that's really important.
But I guess so. I'm picturing those 16 wheels, you know, the first order. And now I'm looking at this board that's full of like this, you know, you have every type and style of cheese on here. How did that succession happen? You know, what was, you know, the like, okay, we've got the blue.
Yeah.
You know, who was the sister who said like, I think it's time for us to, you know, expand?
Well, once again, I think we're all on the same page with the direction of the company. So I don't know if there was one person. We've all kind of had our moments of like, oh, we should name it this, or oh, it should taste a little bit like this. But we're very like aligned with all of that, which is fun about the business.
Yeah.
But we made Original Blue for 10 years or 9 years. That's all we made. And of course, not everybody likes blue cheese.
Sure.
So we worked with, okay, so you're our perfect customer. We made Toma for you, Andrea.
I love it.
So our second cheese that we rolled out was Toma, and that's what we call our Italian-inspired cheese. And it's now grown to 3 other flavors. So it really has, you know, built up its own reputation. But we wanted to make a cheese because not everybody likes blue. And we actually made our Gouda that same year. So in 2010 is when we rolled out Toma, our Gouda, which is a traditional 20-pound Gouda, and our Bay Blue, a second blue cheese. And it's sweeter, so it's savory and sweet. And so we always tell people who don't think they like blues, try that one. It's not as strong as Original Blue. Okay.
What's
Pungent.
the difference between the Point Reyes? That's what I was going to ask, is what is the difference between the Point Reyes Blue and the Bay Blue?
Yeah. Original Blue is our one raw milk. Everything else is pasteurized, and just different distinctive flavor notes that come from a raw milk cheese. It's more almost 2-dimensional. It's like this sweet lactic flavor up front, and then this pepper pungency and a nice long finish is the Original Blue, and super creamy. The Bay Blue is, we call it savory and sweet. So it's got a natural rind to it. We use, it's pasteurized, aged about 2 months, and it uses a traditional rennet, which gives it more of that mushroomy, earthy note, that savory umami flavor up front, and then it ends like in a salted caramel finish. We've actually just added our newest cheese this holiday. You guys just took on, and it's phenomenal. It's Bay Blue with fennel. Ooh. So fennel seeds in there. So the true Italian in you will love that.
I'm a big fan of the fennel.
Yeah.
Is that because I'm Italian? I think it is.
It's in your blood.
I love it.
I'm going to say that, like, I remember my grandma, Michelina, who was born in Italy, used to bust out the biscotti with fennel seeds at a very young age, and I used to eat them, and I think that's why I love. Andrea knows I'm a black licorice addict.
We went to the factory
and anything with fennel
Italy.
or anise or black licorice, like.
Do you like a pizzelle?
Yes.
Like I have memories of one of my cousins, my mom's cousins. Every Christmas she would make homemade pizzelles, and oh my God, it's That's like my first
I'm
fennel
with you.
memory as a kid.
I'm
Like in a
with you.
biscotti or something.
Yeah.
So wild, fennel grows wild out here in West Marin.
Yeah.
So it was definitely kind of a sense of place for us. And we wanted something that was going to really resonate with the terroir out here. So it really made sense. And it's a beautiful combination. It's such a well-balanced cheese.
Is it native to the area, or do these Italian Gold Rush guys bring it out here? That's an interesting thought.
That's a good question. I'm not sure, but it's been here as long as I know.
Sure.
So I want to say it's native.
I feel like it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wild fennel, right?
It had to start somewhere.
So how do you choose these flavors? So I know the you have the tomarashi, you have the truffle. You know, are you looking for trends, or are chefs reaching out to you and saying, I want this? Like what drives those decisions?
Really, the customers do. Ultimately, in 2016, John, I called you. I don't know if you remember. And I said, our family's going on vacation to Umbria. We would love to do a truffle hunt. So you connected us.
I remember.
Yeah, to the Sabatino family. And we got there, and it was really funny. We walked in, and there was the father, the 80-year-old father, our father, who was, approaching 80, and the daughters were working in the plant. And I was like, oh my God, you're a family business just like us. And we had a wonderful experience truffle hunting. And they said, oh, well, you should use truffle in your cheese. And we kind of laughed and said, oh no, we're purists. We don't do, flavored cheeses. 2016, 2018, we were getting customers asking for, can you make another cheese, and can you add a flavor? So this whole flavor trend thing has really exploded. So we knew we wanted to do something that really complemented kind of Point Reyes and who we are, but we had to stick with, okay, truffle was really hot at that time. And so we worked with Sabatino and their R&D department. So they make us a paste or a pate that goes into the cheese, into the vat when we're making the cheese. And it's a beautiful cheese. It actually won at the World Cheese Awards in 2022 in its category. This was over in the UK. And then it got elevated and was picked as the top 20 in the world.
It's so great.
It's so
really
good.
It's incredible.
It tastes almost like truffle pasta because the tome is so buttery up front, and then it's a beautiful, elegant, just high quality truffle in there. It's the real deal.
Which is so important. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think there's so many terrible truffle products out there now.
Agree.
So this is one that I feel like John, we can all agree upon that this is
It's the real deal.
it is the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And I always tell people now too that truffle is not a trend any longer. It just is a core item, and it's year round. So we're seeing lots of successes with that, especially at Chef's Warehouse. You're getting a lot of people to cook with it, to have it on boards.
I was going to say, are people finishing pasta dishes with it? What are the uses for the truffle cheese?
Pretty much everything. I look at it as more of because the truffles with heat, it kind of lowers the heat lowers the flavor a little
aroma,
bit. So I always like to finish something off, whether it's on a pizza or in a risotto. I like it in scrambled eggs, and you drizzle it with balsamic, and you get a little breakfast for dinner.
Nice.
I mean, there's so many applications
Grilled
with
cheese.
it. But it's a great quality cheese.
But I'm also seeing other not hard cheeses here.
Yes.
So when did you dive into that world?
Yeah. So we had played around with it for a while. We wanted something that was a fresh, soft ripened cheese because all of our other cheeses are aged. And we wanted to see kind of what that tasted like fresh. And so we had worked on it pre-COVID, and then when COVID happened, we really started working more on our cheese called Quinta that you see in the middle of the board with the bay leaf on top. Now, this cheese is soft ripened bloomy rind. We wrap it in a spruce bark, and this is a style of cheese that has grown tremendously in demand in the United States.
I'm obsessed with that
There's
cheese.
about
So
7 or
good.
8 cheesemakers that make some type of a soft ripened wrapped with the spruce bark. We wanted to make it uniquely or quintessentially Point Reyes, and so once again, we wanted to look at our natural resources. California laurel bay trees are dotted all over our farm. It's indigenous to the area. We love bay. We love to cook. And so we adorned the top with them, which is a pretty presentation, but we make a bay leaf tea when we steep the bark. So we have to, we put it in a pressure cooker to soften it to wrap around the cheese. So we throw bay leaves in there. So it creates this steam and this kind of tea that infuses into the bark. So you get up front buttermilk mushroomy notes in this really creamy ribbony cheese. It's really luscious when you cut the top off. And then as it kind of ages, you get more of that earthy note from the bark and then the herbaceousness from the bay.
And there's 2 sizes there. We have the minis or the small format and then the larger.
The 5 ounce. We did the 5 ounce for food service. So it was great to have 5 ounce and a 10 ounce. We actually did this. This was for our 20th anniversary. So we made this cheese during COVID. And it's also a nod to our mom. So if I can talk about family again.
Yes, absolutely.
So people mostly hear about our father's side of the family business, Giacomini's, that were all dairymen. But my mom's side is Ferreira or Fajita in Portuguese. So she's 100% Portuguese. And unfortunately, she passed away in 2012. And Andrea, just like you, she did not like blue cheese. So we knew we always wanted to make a cheese for her. So this cheese is for you too. And so Quinta in Portuguese means farmstead, where you make it off the farm, a value-added product, which is where this product started. And so it in Portuguese, it's more in reference to a vineyard and a winery, but it's the same idea. It also, in Spanish, it means fifth. It was the 5th kind of category of cheese that we were making. And in Spanish, we kind of talk about that a lot too, because a lot of our cheesemakers are Hispanic. So it's a thank you to them. So there's lots of meanings behind the Quinta. Yeah.
Feels
awesome.
good, right? It's a feel-good cheese.
And we at Chef's Warehouse, we have every one of these cheeses. This is like, we have the full line in every region of the country. They are amongst the most popular cheeses. I mean, if you're a chef listening to this, hopefully you're buying them.
100%.
And
I mean, the original blue is the #1 blue cheese we sell, at least on the website.
Yes. And thank you to Jen Sussman, who has always been a fan. And we go way back. But I think that what makes chefs also a really special partner is that you've always been a champion of smaller producers and specialty producers to help grow that business and for us to tell that story and why we're unique. And it's true. I mean, I talk about, our family business and generations and how cheese has saved our farm, but there's more and more farms across the United States that are going away. And we really need to support that. And American cheeses are amazing. They're competing against European cheeses. And it's just like we have such great choices today.
Absolutely.
We talk about that on this program all the time, that back in the Stone Age when I was growing up, if you wanted cheese in the United States, it was pretty grim.
Yep. A lot of craft singles.
The reason I'm in the food business is a trip to France when I was 15 where I tasted things that I didn't even know they existed. I'd heard about French cheese or Italian cheese, but outside of like Parmigiano, it was pretty slim, or a rubbery brie that you would get at a supermarket, or if you were lucky, maybe a specialty food market. But I think that the cheese in America is it's not even it's better than, or same level. I don't know if better is the right word. These are they're all world.
100%.
And the platter I'm looking at in front of me, I mean, it's as good as it gets. And now again, I'm salivating. I'm always salivating when I look at cheese.
It's true. I feel like, though, you mentioned Food Network, and I feel like Food Network kind of drove a lot of domestic products into people's minds. You're watching this and your mind was kind of opened up, like this exists, at least for me. I came from like a very my mom didn't cook, my grandparents did, but very like meat and potatoes, I would say. So that's like, for me, it was all like learning through watching television and watching Emeril and Sarah Moulton and these amazing chefs who are using these products. So
what's on the horizon cheese-wise?
Yeah. Do you think you're going to go more into the flavor world? Do you think you're going to go into a different type of cheese?
We focused on one cheese for 9 years. Yeah. And it did very well for us. And I think focus is important and not trying to please everybody. But once again, we listen to our customers. We look at the marketplace. We don't want too many things that we are, losing sight of making just core quality cheeses. And I think with our blue line, we've got 3 blues now with the fennel blue. Our Toma line, our Toma Provence is the other one with Toma Rashi and Toma Truffle, and then the original. We're making staples too. And as you know, we talk about chefs. I mean, that Toma is a staple. Original blue is a staple. Those are workhorses in the kitchen. And I always say every chef should have it. They will find a multitude of, applications for it. And now we have our soft ripen line. Of course, we always have something fun kind of in the background, but this year we launched also our truffle brie. Same with the Sabatino truffle is in there. We last year came out the 5-ounce Quinta for food service, so that's still kind of getting off the ground. And then the fennel blue. So, I hate to do too much. Our Gouda, we didn't talk about our Gouda. That is, it's amazing. It's actually, we aged it originally 24 months, so we would only have a release every 2 years. So it was part of our library of cheeses. We've started making more of it, so you guys have it available in all your locations now, and it's just a really awesome American Gouda. So we kind of want to, grow that as well. I think there's so much opportunity, like you were saying, like I travel a lot like you guys, and we go see customers, and you go to hotels, and it's like, go to a bar, get a glass of wine, you want a cheese plate, and there's still so much room to have, better cheeses available in different places. So I think that we've got a lot of growth here too.
Yeah.
I have one last question.
And I have one last question too.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Whatever you want, John.
You go first.
What would you say to a young cheesemaker? Somebody who, I feel like, you talked about a lot of people leaving the industry. What about somebody who has like a dream of this? What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think with any artisan producer, you got to follow your heart. You got to, make what you love, make it with, great quality milk. I mean, that's what makes a difference. Is the quality milk and the science of the cheesemaker. And I have to mention Kuba Hemmerling. He is our VP of Ops, our master cheesemaker. He has developed all these cheeses, and it's, we've got a village. And so you just surround yourself with good people. It takes a village. It's kind of like that support and mentorship from, Peggy and Sue years ago. It was, you can do this. And there's, I don't know, I wouldn't be afraid to also say, you don't feel like you have to have a lot of money to start. We all started with nothing, really. Milk in a very small vat.
And I'm sure, it took, you said years, like don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Like you have to.
We failed many times.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, John, you're up.
Yeah.
You said you started off with the first sale was 16 wheels of the blue. I'm just curious. Do you have any idea how many wheels of the blue you're selling?
I do.
This year. What?
That's my job.
You want to take a guess on how many it is? I want to guess.
Okay, what's your guess?
Wheels. I thought you were going to say pounds.
I'm gonna.
Wheels.
How many pounds is a wheel? 6
we
pound
had
wheel.
about 7 for the original blue.
7-pound wheel. I'm gonna do some math. I'm gonna say they did 16. I'm gonna say they do 70,000 pounds would be 10,000 wheels. Am I saying that right?
I feel like it's more.
You want to go? You want to go high?
Calculator.
You want to go high?
I'm going high.
You're going more than 10,000.
I'm going over $1. 101, John.
Okay. Lynn, what's the answer?
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that because we have 8 different cheeses sitting here.
Yep.
They all are different weights. We have a 20-pound Gouda, like I said.
You're going to give me the total weight
we
of
were just
everything.
saying the original
I just want the
blue.
original
the
blue.
original blue. Well, we do about 1,000,000 pounds in just the original blue.
1,000,000 pounds.
Now you drop the mic.
Wait, what do I win?
That you win.
Well, how else are we going to serve all your warehouses?
Wow, that's amazing.
That's incredible. 16 wheels to 1,000,000 pounds. Like, I love hearing that.
Now, we're still considered, we make it by hand. We do have
Artisan
2 creameries.
to the
We're
max.
artisan. And there's a lot of
yeah.
producers that make 5 million pounds a day.
Right.
So
that is
this is still
unbelievable. What
Wow.
a great family story.
Yeah.
What a great success story. Couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
Thank you. The cows
And-
want to meet you.
Oh my gosh.
Let's
we're
go
going to
meet
go
some
see some
cows.
cows.
This is exciting. Thank you so much.
This was really
You're welcome.
Full circle moment for
such
us.
a beautiful place. And then one other thing I do want to mention is you take visitors here, and this is such a beautiful part of the country.
Yes.
So if someone wants to visit, what are the rules? Do they have to make an appointment, or they can just show up?
Well, get on our website.
Yeah.
And on our website, where you're sitting right now is our culinary center, and it's all about education and entertainment. It's called The Fork.
www.pointreyes.com.
.pointreyscheese.com. And then The Fork will be part of that website.
Yeah.
And the Fork, we do a lot of education, like I said, entertainment here. So for the trade, if you have any chefs, we love to host them. So you can come anytime, just call and we'll arrange a time. And then we also have it open to the public. So we have a marketplace here, and then we have cheese tastings during May through October. So you can reserve a table and you get a nice cheese board. You get some menus off of our The Fork here as well. So we have an executive chef. Her name is Chef Jennifer Luttrell. She does an amazing job. So she works with recipes and applications all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Our marketing department does great stuff on social media and is always showing all the different recipes, fun recipes to with our cheese. So it's a lot of fun.
If you are in San Francisco or Northern California, make it a point to get here.
Yes.
There are fewer, more beautiful places on earth to have a plate of cheese and a glass of wine or beer or... Can you have all those things here?
You can. You
Oh my
can if you
gosh.
bring it yourself. Yes.
If you
So
BYOB.
BYOB. Yeah.
Funny story is I came here probably 2 years ago and I was with some friends and Lauren
Last
and
year.
we sat, was that last year? Oh my God, it seemed like a
Yeah.
long time. And we sat out here and we were having a few bites and talking to Lynn. And then about a dozen Chef's Warehouse sales reps sauntered in. They were doing a sales visit
You had no
here.
idea?
I had no idea. And I was like,
that's
this
funny.
is so
Yeah.
amazing. And they were here learning. It's just a great place to learn, to chill out. If you haven't been, make it a point to come visit.
And if you're a chef who is far away from California, but really is drooling like John, you can call your sales rep right now and place your order. Or, of course, you can place your order at chefswarehouse.com.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah.
What
Thank
a treat.
you guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Ingredient Insiders. Follow us on Instagram at Ingredient Insiders. You can find the products we discussed on today's episode at chefswarehouse.com or at your favorite specialty retailer.